Have you ever been in a situation where you just felt like you needed to say something? And every time you thought about the idea of speaking up or using your voice, it created a fear in you that it stopped you in your tracks from speaking up. You may even had an answer to something and just knew that what you could be saying can make all the difference. But you got choked up and afraid to speak. There's so many of us that go through this and beat ourselves up and always question, why is it so difficult for us to speak up? And that could be for many reasons. A lot of times it's our programming. A lot of times it comes from experiences as children where we may have heard children are meant to be seen, not heard, or maybe you had some opinions or you spoke up for yourself at some time in point in your life, and then you were automatically shut down and made to feel that you didn't know what you were talking about, that you were stupid, or whatever the case may be. Maybe you came from a religion where you weren't allowed to speak up, right? Because whatever the belief system was, this is what we had to believe. So we can never entirely be who we are and speak up, um, because of those fears that were programmed into us about speaking up or being shut down, or you may have gotten abused, physically abused for speaking up, for having an opinion or a thought, um, which then leaves us in this place of feeling unheard, right? Non existent to a certain extent. It can go back even further, go back to our past lives. Maybe we were persecuted at some point for speaking up in a version of ourselves in a time where we were not allowed to speak, especially women. We were never allowed to speak because if we spoke up, we would get abused, or we would get persecuted or made fun of or whatever. So, if you ever find yourself in a situation where you feel like you have something to say and all of a sudden you get choked up and you can't express it, I want you to think about that moment. What was going through your mind, how you were feeling when that situation happened. And then I want you to think back in the earliest memory, the earliest or the first thought that comes into your mind of a time in your life where you were shut down and weren't allowed to speak up. And that is where a lot of it starts. So if we can start to see that and understand that we do have a voice and we should be able to use our voice in any way that we're meant to use it, to speak up for ourselves, to express how we feel, um, to teach because we know something that someone else doesn't know, but we're too afraid to say it. Um, think about the first thought, the first memory in your mind where you felt that your voice was shut down and you weren't allowed to speak, and how that made you feel. And once you have grasped that and embraced that moment, or remember that moment and acknowledge that moment, I want you to send love to it. I want you to be able to say, it's okay. You have a voice and you are allowed to use it. And I send love and healing to that part of me that felt that I could not use my voice or express myself. It's okay. And I forgive myself for not doing that, for not speaking up. And I forgive whoever made me feel like I could not speak up. I send love to that part of me and let it go. And the more that we can start acknowledging where a lot of this started, where it originated, and even if you do not, because like I said, a lot of times this stuff happens in past lives and we carry it forward into our future lives and future versions of ourselves, that get incarnated over and over and over. But once we can understand that the tightness that we get in our throat, or the fear, or the paranoia, or the um, uncomfortableness of being able to express ourselves, comes from a deeper place of when we, in a time in our life where we were not allowed to. And I want you to send love to that time, to that place, to that person, to that version of yourself, and ask for forgiveness and ask to heal that part of you. I send healing to the part of me that wasn't allowed to speak up. I forgive myself for not speaking up in the times when I felt I needed to. And I forgive wherever it began, from whomever it came from, that put that fear in me. I forgive them. You can imagine like a bubble place that thought in the bubble and send it love and healing. And then when opportunities come up in your life where you are able to speak, then just allow yourself to speak. And that will help with a lot of the healing from that time. Moving forward, we're trying to clear and change old versions of ourselves so that we can begin brand new, being our authentic self, where we are seen, where we are heard, where we are able to be who we are truly meant to be and who we really are. We're trying to get to that place again. And the only way we can get to that place is to heal those parts of ourselves, that those experiences that have delayed or kept us stuck in becoming who we really are.